Welcome to the deep dive, where we kind of take these like seemingly totally random topics and we really like dive deep into them.
Mm-hmm.
So today's deep dive is gonna be a little different.
Okay.
We're gonna be comparing two characters you might not immediately think to compare.
Right.
We're gonna be looking at Maude Finley,
Okay.
the outspoken liberal feminist from All in the Family, and Maude.
Oh, wow.
And we're gonna compare her to Maude Flanders, the kind, devoutly religious neighbor from The Simpsons.
Fascinating. I mean, they're both named Maude, so I guess that's one thing.
Yeah, that's one thing, right? And
That's interesting.
we're going to be using a bunch of different sources for this deep dive. Some images from Getty Images,
Right. Yeah.
some YouTube clips to kind of give us a visual aspect to these characters.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And also just some background info from Amazon, Sony Pictures Entertainment, IMDb, and Wikipedia.
Okay.
And just kind of, to unpack how these two very different characters, they're both named Maude, how they ended up as these huge cultural touchstones.
It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't think to put these two together, but like you said, they both really made a mark on television history and just on the way that we view women in society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start with Maude Finley.
Okay.
A lot of people might not know that she didn't just magically appear with her own sitcom.
Right.
She actually started out on All in the Family
Okay.
as Edith Bunker's cousin.
Oh, wow.
So Norman Lear, the creator of the show, he really wanted a character who would just challenge Archie Bunker's very conservative views, head on.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Maude, she did not disappoint.
She did not.
She was this total firecracker.
Yeah.
A liberal, a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even before, the term feminist was really mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their clashes were so funny.
I love those.
But at the same time, really thought-provoking.
Oh, for sure.
Especially for the time.
Especially for that time, yeah.
And I think her most iconic line,
Oh, yeah.
God will get you for that, Walter. That just really sums up her whole personality,
Yeah, it really does. She's so quick-witted and not afraid of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Fearless. And the way she delivers that line, with Bea Arthur's voice.
Oh, yeah.
That voice is just instantly recognizable.
Oh, my God, yes.
It's amazing how a voice can be so tied to a character.
Right.
You just hear it and you know exactly who it is. And there are all these stories about how Bea Arthur would answer the phone and people would think they were talking to Mr. Finley, and she'd be like, no, this is Maude.
Really?
Yeah, using that same voice. She wasn't going to change it for anyone.
It's that voice itself was challenging all these societal norms.
It was, yeah.
A refusal to conform,
Absolutely.
And that defiance, that was at the core of Maude as a show.
It really was.
They would tackle these topics that were at the time, really controversial.
Oh, yeah.
Abortion.
Wow.
Alcoholism, women's liberation.
I mean, these are issues that a lot of sitcoms, especially in the early 70s, they wouldn't touch these.
No, they were too taboo.
Right.
And speaking of pushing boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Those Maude's Dilemma episodes.
Right.
Where she decides to have an abortion.
Yeah.
Those were hugely controversial.
I can imagine.
39 stations refused to air them.
Wow.
Can you imagine if a sitcom today
Oh, my God.
tried to tackle an issue like that?
Yeah, the uproar would be unbelievable.
It's crazy. So while Maude Finley's over there really shaking things up in the suburbs of New York,
right,
we have Maude Flanders, who's embodying a very different kind of woman.
Yeah.
Over in Springfield.
Totally different world.
Right. She's devoutly religious, kind-hearted, always cheerful.
Yeah, the perfect neighbor.
Right. Always there with a supportive word.
And probably some freshly baked cookies.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Until, of course, that episode where she dies at the racetrack.
Oh, yeah. That was a tough one.
That was so sad.
It really was.
A lot of viewers really felt that one.
Yeah. I mean, it showed how much everyone in Springfield loved her.
Yeah.
And, how important she was to the show.
Absolutely. And it's just really interesting to think, how would these two Maudes...
Right.
They represent such different personalities, such different worldviews. How would they even interact?
Yeah, could they even exist in the same universe?
Right. What do you think?
I mean, it's a total thought experiment, right?
Yeah.
Just imagine, Maude Finley with all of her bluntness and her passion for social justice, meeting Maude Flanders with her faith and her just, gentle nature. I don't know, would they get along?
Yeah, would they just clash?
Or would they find some kind of common ground?
Yeah.
It's hard to picture.
It's hard to picture them even being in the same room.
I know, right?
Like they're from different planets.
They are, but that's kind of what makes this so interesting. By looking at how different they are, I think we can kind of see how female characters on TV have changed over time.
Right.
And like how those changes reflect what's happening in society too.
Exactly. All connected.
And maybe, just maybe, we might find some things that these two mods have in common.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious.
Even though they seem so different.
All right, let's see. Yeah, it's like we're looking at two different points in time, you know?
Yeah.
Maude Finley, she's like right in the middle of the feminist movement, like really pushing boundaries, speaking her mind.
Yeah.
And then you have Maude Flanders. She's, I guess you could say, more traditional in her values.
Right.
But she's still strong, still influential in her own way.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, like, did they actually have more in common than we think?
I know. Like on the surface, they seem like total opposites.
Right.
But maybe if we look a little deeper.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe there's some stuff there.
I mean, I think you could say they were both incredibly strong in what they believed in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maude Finley, she fought for social change.
Mm-hmm.
And Maude Flanders, her strength came from her faith.
Yeah.
Her commitment to her community.
It's like they both had this like inner compass guiding their actions, but they're just pointed in different directions.
Right. One was driven by social justice, the other by a strong sense of morality and faith.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they both kind of challenged those stereotypes of women on television in
Yeah.
their own ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like Maude Finley was so outspoken, she refused to just fit into some box.
Right. And Maude Flanders, even though she was a traditional homemaker, she had this quiet strength, like a wisdom that people really connected with.
Totally. It's so interesting how they defied expectations, but in totally different ways.
Yeah.
Maude Finley, she was loud, she was proud, she wanted to change things.
Yeah.
Maude Flanders was all about grace and kindness, right?
But with this like inner strength from her faith.
Yeah, and they both had such a huge impact on their audiences.
They did. It's like they represent the two sides of being a woman.
Right.
Like there's so many different ways to be a woman, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And they weren't just characters.
Right.
They were like cultural icons.
Yeah.
Like Maude Finley, she was a symbol of the feminist movement, a woman who refused to be silenced.
Mm-hmm.
And Maude Flanders, she represented kindness, compassion.
Yeah, in her own way.
And it makes you wonder, like, how would they handle today's world?
That's a good question.
Right.
Would Maude Finley be, like, taking on internet trolls?
Yeah. Or would Maude Flanders be, like, starting some viral kindness campaign?
Oh, I love that.
It's crazy to think, like, even though these characters are fictional, they can still make us think about the world around us in new ways.
Totally. Their legacy goes way beyond their shows. They're part of how we talk about these issues, how we think about women's roles.
Right.
The power of believing in something, the importance of just being yourself.
It's like they planted these ideas that are still growing, even as the world changes around us.
And that actually brings up an interesting point.
Okay.
So Maude, the show, was really praised for tackling tough issues.
Right.
But some people might say that Maude Flanders, even though she was so kind, maybe she kind of reinforced traditional gender roles, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Like, how do we reconcile those two views?
That's a good question, right? Like, we're always looking back at these characters and seeing them in new ways.
Exactly. Like, how do they fit in with how we see things now? It's tricky.
Yeah, it is.
Like with Maude Flanders, I mean, she's got a strong faith.
Right.
But yeah, maybe the way she's portrayed, it doesn't quite line up with how we think about gender roles today.
It's true. Like, even the characters we love can be kind of stuck in the time they were created in.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I guess it shows how complicated it is to represent different types of people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, there's no one perfect way to show what it's like to be a woman on TV.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest thing we learned from looking at these two mods. They show us that women have all these different experiences, different ways of looking at the world.
Right. There's not just one way to be a woman.
And strength can look different, too.
Exactly.
Like Maude Finley's out there fighting for change. And Maude Flanders, she's got this quiet strength, like she never gives up.
It's pretty awesome when you think about it.
It is. They both made history their own ways.
Yeah.
Maude Finley, she opened the door for all these strong, complicated female characters we see on TV now.
And Maude Flanders, even though she was more traditional, she showed how powerful kindness and faith can be.
It's crazy that these two characters, they were made so many years apart.
I know.
But we're still talking about them, still thinking about what they mean.
It just shows how good storytelling can stick with you.
It really does.
And how these characters, even if they're not real people,
Right.
they can make us understand ourselves and the world better.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the worlds of Maude Findlay and Maude Flanders, is there one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
I think the big takeaway is, even when characters seem totally different, they can both teach us something important.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at those differences, when we try to understand different points of view, that's how we learn and grow. That's how we get a better picture of the world.
That's a great point. Maybe it'll even inspire people to look for those unexpected connections in their own lives.
Yeah, to see the value in different ways of thinking, to appreciate all the different ways people can be.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was fun. Keep on exploring, everyone.